The underlying thought there is that it's too hard to include people with disability and we're expendable.
A lot of people think that the needs of disabled people are us asking for something more. It actually isn't about asking for more. What it is about is asking for those things to be done so that we can participate more equally. Challenging ableism is hard. It takes bravery and courage.
Hi, I'm Laura. My pronouns are she, her, and this is my lovely motorised wheelchair, Stella.
Hi, my name's Annabelle. I am an occupational therapist and a disability advocate who lives and works in regional Victoria.
Hi, I'm Christine, and this is my assistant's dog, Sammy.
Hello, my name's Renee, and I'm a proud Biripi Dunghutti woman. I am a disability and gender justice advocate.
Ableism is a set of attitudes and behaviours that revolve around or are based on the notion that people with disability are inherently somehow less than people without disability.
Another way to describe it is organising communities towards people without disability.
Having lower expectations of staff with disability, or it might involve thoughts that, for example, making something accessible is just too difficult, so we won't do it.
Gender inequality. I feel like it's the elephant in the room. It's something that everyone's aware of, people don't want to talk about.
Gender inequality I would describe as not just a belief, but an environment, a system where women and non-binary people are perceived as being subservient or lesser than.
Disparities might be apparent in the economic sphere. We know that there's a massive gender pay gap. Disparities might also be apparent in the healthcare system, in the way that people of different genders are treated when they access or attempt to access healthcare. They might be apparent in the educational sphere, say when by virtue of their gender, a young person is encouraged to study particular subjects, even if their interests don't lie in those subjects.
Most drugs that women use are only tested on men. They're not tested on women. And then we wonder why they don't work for us.
Paternalistic attitudes and attitudes that infantilise us or treat us as though we are children who need to be looked after, who can't make decisions for ourselves, who, I guess, are in that way deprived of agency over various decisions or in various domains of our lives. Actions that perpetuate ableism can range from things that are really innocuous and might pass by unnoticed. Some examples that I've experienced are people staring at me when I'm walking down the street, people coming up to me and just saying, "What's wrong with your leg?" or "Why do you walk like that?"
The gaslighting is definitely a massive, massive problem. Just not believing me, believing that I would rather lie about needing a wheelchair than actually needing it. And, you know, the amount of energy and time and distress and sadness that comes from not being able to take my child to a park or to, you know, an environment that they want to go to because my wheelchair doesn't fit. and not being able to pay for a new one and having to beg constantly to get access to what is a basic human right. Like, access to things is a basic human right.
Our world is basically designed through a system of patriarchy which favours men. Unfortunately, it's just been like that for a very long time. Add on top of that the fact that architecture in the world and a system designed that favours mostly men also only favours mostly able-bodied people. And I think that's why other people who aren't disabled don't understand. But a lot of people think that they're ticking a box, but providing disabled access is not about that. Equality and equity is certainly not about that.
It's a really difficult thing to live in a country where you know that 6 out of 10 people don't think that you deserve choice and control over your own life.
Women and girls with disabilities are affected in a quite sinister way when ableism combines with gender inequality. When you've got a situation where, especially with women with disabilities with a male partner, the male partner might be influenced by society that they're better or more than because they're a man to start with and they're able-bodied. That puts the woman with a disability in a more inferior position. It makes them vulnerable, and in that vulnerability, that's where the violence occurs.
Another important factor to consider in terms of the kinds of violence that women and girls with disabilities are more likely to experience is that of intersectionality. Research tells us that women and girls with disabilities who are also Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander are far more likely to experience all kinds of violence as a consequence of racism. We also know that women and girls with disabilities who are from the LGBTQIA+ community are far more likely to experience all of those kinds of violence. Again, not as a consequence of their membership of that cohort, but as a consequence of homophobia and transphobia and biphobia and all of those prejudiced attitudes.
So often I am either the only black fella in the room or the only woman in the room or the only black woman in the room, or like I am the minority always. And sometimes it feels like half my job is just reminding them of that fact, reminding them that, hey, when you left for work this morning, you didn't have to navigate the things that I did. So maybe appreciate the work that it's taken me to get there.
This is what's so crucial, that we attack ableism and gender inequality. It has to happen together.
All of those things together mean that we are more likely to experience violence because these attitudes are normalised. And when they're normalised and those things happen and people don't bat an eyelid, people don't think, hang on, that's not okay, then those things just keep happening.
I wish there were more times when I'd had positive experiences, but the ones that I have had have been amazing. I went out to dinner the other night. I rarely go out to dinner because it's just too draining. On their booking form online, it said, if you can't sit at a high table or you've got mobility issues, please add a note. And I added a note and said, I can't sit at a high table, I have an assistance dog and I struggle with stairs. They rang me up. Like 10 minutes later after I'd submitted that, just to go over my needs and where they could put me and how to come in. It was incredible.
One of my friends got married in late 2023. She wanted the ceremony to be as accessible for me as possible. She checked in with me about what my access needs were. She knew that COVID safety is a part of that. She also made sure that the venue was wheelchair accessible. She also considered where I was actually placed on a table so that I was close to the exit, but also as close as possible to the bathroom.
I went to see a show at a theatre in Melbourne and I thought that I wouldn't be in a wheelchair that night, but I ended up being in a wheelchair that night. And my seats were not disabled seats. And when I rocked up at the box office, they just made it all happen. I wasn't a burden. They didn't indicate any problem. They just made it all happen. It was seamless.
Just the consideration of all of those different elements and the fact that I didn't even need to ask, I didn't need to fight to have my needs met because they and I were considered essential.
A lot of people think that the needs of disabled people are us asking for something more. It actually isn't about asking for more. What it is about is asking for those things to be done so that we can participate more equally. If we take those things away, we're not already out of breath before we get to the last bit that we should enjoy. If those things were just provided, we've got equal opportunity to enjoy the same things that able-bodied people enjoy without having to have those accommodations. We're not asking for more.
Understand that the things that they're doing and saying are actually perpetuating and are further entrenching those beliefs and ideas. So I think it's about, on an individual level, being able to call those things out when they happen, and for people to be receptive to that, to not act in defensiveness, and to hear us when we say, this is our experience and we need you to listen. If we make a request, if we call you out for something that's ableist, don't dismiss us, take us seriously. Women and girls with disabilities are the experts of their own bodies and their own experiences.